Welcome to Globewise Entertainment, your ultimate destination for exploring hidden gems, shocking Hollywood stories, and mind-blowing movie facts. Today, we're stepping back into time to uncover 12 forgotten British sci-fi films that actually predicted the future, from AI and surveillance to climate change and human evolution. These films didn't just entertain audiences, they warned us about the world we live in today. So sit back, relax, and get ready for a thrilling journey through the visionary world of classic British sci-fi. And hey, if you haven't subscribed to Globewise Entertainment yet, hit that subscribe button now. Don't forget to tell us in the comments which movie shocked you the most with its futuristic predictions. 1. The Man in the White Suit, 1951. The fabric of the future. Imagine a world where science creates something too perfect for its own good. That's exactly what the 1951 British sci-fi satire, The Man in the White Suit, dared to explore, long before sustainability, automation, and corporate greed became everyday news. The film stars the brilliant Alec Guinness as Sidney Stratton, a humble chemist working in a textile factory. Obsessed with innovation, Sidney secretly develops a revolutionary fabric that never gets dirty and never wears out. A miracle invention, right? The kind that could change the world forever? But instead of celebration, Sidney's discovery sparks panic and outrage. Factory owners fear financial ruin. Who will buy clothes that last forever? Labor unions worry that mass unemployment will follow. And society itself turns against the man who tried to free humanity from the endless cycle of consumption. In one haunting scene, Sidney walks through a mob, his glowing white suit shining in the dark, a symbol of progress rejected by the very people it was meant to help. It's an image that still hits hard today, in an era of fast fashion, environmental crises, and corporate suppression of innovation. Decades before Elon Musk or AI-powered tech debates, The Man in the White Suit predicted the moral dilemma of progress, when technology moves faster than society's ability to accept it. The movie's message remains chillingly relevant. What happens when perfection threatens profit? And just like that, this forgotten 1951 gem becomes more than sci-fi. It's a prophecy about our modern world. What other 1950s sci-fi film do you think predicted our future? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Globewise Entertainment for more incredible stories from cinema's past. 2. Jubilee, 1978. Britain's punk prophecy of chaos and control. In 1978, British cinema gave birth to something wild, unruly, and shockingly prophetic, Derek Jarman's Jubilee. At first glance, it looked like a chaotic punk fantasy, a messy, violent, and loud trip through a crumbling Britain ruled by greed, celebrity culture, and political decay. But beneath its outrageous punk aesthetic and underground madness, Jubilee was predicting the future, a world that looks eerily familiar today. The film begins with a time travel twist. Queen Elizabeth I, guided by a mystical angel, is transported forward in time to witness the bleak ruins of her future empire, modern Britain. What she finds is terrifyingly prophetic. The monarchy has become meaningless. Police act as corporate enforcers. Youths burn their own neighborhoods for entertainment. Media glorifies violence and exploitation, all while people are too numb to care. Sound familiar? Jubilee didn't just showcase the punk rebellion, it foresaw the digital age of viral chaos, reality fame, and political disillusionment. The punks in Jarman's film live-streamed their rage before live-streaming even existed. They worshipped anarchy as if it were a lifestyle brand, something today's internet culture often mirrors. When Jubilee was released, critics were confused and divided. Some called it a cinematic riot. Others dismissed it as meaningless noise. But decades later, it feels like a warning that we ignored. From media manipulation to youth rebellion and cultural collapse, it all unfolded exactly as Jarman envisioned. Jubilee may have been too ahead of its time for 1978, but in hindsight, it reads like a mirror to our modern world. A world where power hides behind entertainment, and chaos is the new normal. Coming up next, another forgotten British sci-fi that looked into the future long before we did. 3. The Man Who Fell to Earth, 1976. In 1976, a strange, haunting British sci-fi film arrived, The Man Who Fell to Earth. Starring the enigmatic David Bowie in one of his most iconic roles, this movie wasn't just science fiction, it was prophecy. Bowie plays Thomas Jerome Newton, an alien who crash-lands on Earth, seeking water to save his dying home planet. But instead of hope, he finds greed, corruption, and the intoxicating pull of human desire. Newton uses his advanced technology to build a global business empire, eerily foreshadowing the rise of tech billionaires like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, who decades later would dream of saving humanity through innovation and space travel. The film also predicted something even deeper, the loneliness of a hyper-connected world. Newton becomes trapped by his own inventions and the media machine that builds him up, only to tear him down, a chilling reflection of modern celebrity culture and our addiction to technology. Visually surreal and emotionally devastating, The Man Who Fell to Earth didn't just imagine the future, it became the future. Themes of environmental collapse, alienation through technology, and the commercialization of space exploration all echo loudly in today's headlines. It was misunderstood in its time, but today, it feels like a warning we failed to heed. A visionary film decades ahead of its time, The Man Who Fell to Earth reminds us that progress without empathy can make us strangers on our own planet. For Threads, 1984, the chilling reality that became prophecy. In 1984, the BBC released a film so disturbing that even seasoned news anchors refused to rewatch it. That film was Threads, a grim and brutally realistic portrayal of what would happen if nuclear war erupted over British soil. Set in the quiet city of Sheffield, Threads didn't rely on monsters or laser guns. It showed ordinary families torn apart by something far more terrifying, human arrogance and political miscalculation. What made Threads unforgettable wasn't just its raw depiction of nuclear devastation, it was how eerily it predicted the future. Years later, experts studying modern warfare, global tensions, and environmental fallout would call Threads a warning that was ignored. The film showcased breakdowns in communication networks, food shortages, civil collapse, and even the long-term impact of radiation on future generations, concepts that mirror real scientific projections today. When it first aired, Threads shocked Britain into silence. Hospitals reported viewers fainting. Teachers refused to show it in classrooms. Even military strategists called it too close to the truth. Nearly 4 decades later, Threads feels less like fiction and more like a documentary filmed ahead of its time, a haunting reminder that science fiction doesn't always invent the future, sometimes it foresees it. Deliver this section with a slow, serious tone. Add soft ambient sounds, Geiger counters clicking, wind blowing through ruins, distant sirens, for atmosphere. Use non-graphic imagery, city skylines, nuclear silhouettes, or 1980s footage of TV screens, to avoid demonetization while keeping emotional impact. 5. The Final Program, 1973. The cyberpunk prophecy that came too early. Long before Blade Runner and The Matrix painted neon worlds of digital decadence, a strange, stylish British film quietly laid the groundwork. The Final Program, 1973. Directed by Robert Fust and based on Michael Moorcock's cult novel, this film wasn't just science fiction, it was a kaleidoscope of chaos, psychedelia, and chilling prophecy. We meet Jerry Cornelius, a playboy scientist, a man of genius and madness, racing to stop his late father's doomsday invention, a supercomputer designed to create the perfect human being. But what starts as a quest for knowledge spirals into a surreal descent into postmodern insanity, where humanity merges with machines, and gender, morality, and reality itself start to blur. What's eerie is how the Final Program predicted the rise of transhumanism, AI evolution, and human cloning decades before they became real debates. Its depiction of computer-driven creation and bioengineered perfection eerily mirrors our 21st century obsession with artificial intelligence and digital immortality. Visually, it was a trip, sleek futurism dressed in 1970s fashion, cold laboratories glowing like art galleries, and a soundtrack pulsing with experimental jazz and electronic beats. Critics didn't know what to make of it back then. Some called it too weird, others too smart. But today, it feels like a hidden message from the future. As Jerry Cornelius steps into the machine to become the world's first post-human hybrid, we can't help but wonder, was the final program truly fiction, or a warning that we're now living its final chapter? A film forgotten by time, but one that saw the future with frightening clarity. If you've never seen the final program, add it to your retro sci-fi watch list, because this psychedelic vision might just be the movie that predicted you. 6. The Projected Man, 1966. The scientist who teleported himself into a nightmare. In the swinging 60s, British cinema was filled with secret agents, aliens, and atomic fears, but The Projected Man, 1966, went somewhere bolder. It imagined teleportation decades before science even dreamed of achieving it. The story follows Dr. Paul Steiner, a brilliant but reckless scientist experimenting with a machine that could instantly transmit matter across space, not through rockets or ships, but pure energy projection. Sound familiar? It should, because this eerie black and white thriller basically predicted teleportation technology, digital transmission, and even the dangers of AI experimentation long before any of them existed. In true British fashion, Steiner's invention doesn't go as planned. When he tests the device on himself, his atoms get scrambled, his body becomes disfigured, and his mind slips into madness. He's not just transported, he's transformed. The film's moral sting hits hard. When man plays God with technology, it's not progress, it's peril. What makes The Projected Man so fascinating today is how much it foreshadowed modern scientific debates. Think about it. Teleportation experiments at CERN, the rise of digital human mapping, and even fears about losing identity in a digital world. This forgotten gem from 1966 warned us all, wrapped in glowing special effects and thunderous screams. While critics dismissed it back then as B-movie nonsense, time has proved otherwise. The Projected Man was, in fact, a chilling prophecy of our digital age, where humans can send data, voices, even faces across the world in milliseconds. A low-budget British sci-fi that saw the future and paid the price for being right too soon. Deliver with a mix of awe and mystery, builds suspense in the middle. He tests the machine on himself, and close with a reflective tone about how accurate the film's vision became. 7. The Machine Stops, 1966. The Internet before it existed. Long before the Internet, smartphones, or even personal computers, a small British TV film in 1966 predicted it all. The Machine Stops, adapted from E.M. Forster's 1909 short story, imagined a future where humanity lives underground, each person isolated inside a small, glowing room, communicating only through screens and machines. Sound familiar? It's practically Zoom calls and social media addiction decades before anyone knew what online even meant. In this chilling BBC adaptation, every human depends on the machine, a vast, all-controlling network that provides food, air, communication, and even emotional comfort. People rarely meet face to face. Instead, they worship the machine like a god. But when one curious man dares to disconnect and see the real world above, he discovers the horrifying truth. Humanity has become a slave to its own creation. The most terrifying part? The machine eventually stops. Society collapses, and humans realize too late what they've lost: real connection, freedom, and the ability to think for themselves. Looking back, it's eerie how The Machine Stops predicted our digital age. The obsession with screens, algorithmic control, and the loneliness beneath our online connections. For a 1966 British production with minimal effects, it hits harder than most modern dystopias. It's a prophetic warning that feels more real today than ever before. So next time you scroll endlessly or ask your AI assistant for answers, remember, the machine already stopped once. 8. Quatermass and the Pit, 1967. The Alien Legacy Beneath London. Imagine this. Deep beneath the bustling streets of London, construction workers uncover something strange, a massive, metallic object buried for centuries. The government thinks it's an unexploded bomb left over from World War II, but what if it's something far older and not of this earth? That's the chilling setup of Quatermass and the Pit, 1967, one of the most visionary British sci-fi films ever made, and one that eerily predicted our modern fears of hidden alien influence, genetic engineering, and mind control long before those ideas became part of pop culture. As scientists and soldiers investigate the mysterious object, they discover fossilized remains of humanoid creatures, alongside evidence suggesting an alien race once tampered with early human evolution. The film dares to ask, what if humanity's intelligence was engineered by visitors from Mars? When the alien power awakens, it triggers psychic chaos across London, with citizens turning violent, controlled by unseen forces from the past. It's an image that feels startlingly familiar today, in an age of mass media manipulation, digital paranoia, and questions about how much of our behavior is truly our own. Decades before films like Prometheus or The X-Files explored the same idea, Quatermass and the Pit was already blending archaeology, religion, and extraterrestrial theory into a haunting vision of human origin. Critics at the time called it too strange, but in hindsight, it was prophetic. Its warnings about the dangers of awakening what's buried, both in the ground and within ourselves, still resonate in today's high-tech world. So next time you pass a subway tunnel or construction site, remember, maybe some secrets are better left buried. 9. Moon 02, 1969. Britain's first space western that saw the future coming. Before Star Wars or The Mandalorian, there was Moon 02, a wild, stylish, and strangely prophetic British film from 1969 that dared to ask, what happens when space becomes the new Wild West? Produced by Hammer Films, best known for gothic horror, Moon 02 flipped expectations with a neon-colored lunar frontier where astronauts were no longer heroes. They were outlaws, scavengers, and space miners chasing profit instead of glory. At its heart was Bill Kemp, a washed-up astronaut turned lunar salvager who's just trying to survive after the dream of space exploration dies out. Sound familiar? That's because Moon 02 predicted a lot more than it got credit for. Private space companies taking over from government programs. Lunar colonization driven by money, not science. Even the idea of asteroid mining, something billionaires are investing in right now. But here's what makes this forgotten gem even more haunting. Beneath the colorful 60s set design and jazzy score, there's a story about greed, loneliness, and the cost of commercializing the final frontier. A message that feels eerily relevant in our age of billionaire space races. Although Moon 02 flopped on release and was mocked for its campy tone, modern audiences are finally realizing its brilliance. It wasn't a silly retro flick, it was a mirror reflecting the corporate future of space exploration. As one critic later said, Moon 02 imagined Elon Musk's dream, 50 years too early. So the next time you see a rocket launch on your news feed, remember, a forgotten 1969 British sci-fi movie saw it all coming. 10. Children of the Damned, 1964. The chilling future of artificial intelligence and genetic superiority. In 1964, British cinema delivered a quiet but haunting prophecy, a film that would later feel eerily relevant to our age of artificial intelligence and genetic engineering. That film was Children of the Damned, a sequel to the classic Village of the Damned, yet far more psychologically daring and disturbingly real. Set in a gray, post-war London, the story follows 6 children from different parts of the world, all born without fathers, all possessing unimaginable intelligence, and all eerily united by a mysterious telepathic connection. Governments panic. scientists grow obsessed. And soon, humanity faces a question that feels ripped straight from today's headlines. What happens when the next evolution of intelligence doesn't need us anymore? Unlike most sci-fi thrillers of its era, Children of the Damned stripped away the monsters and replaced them with something more terrifying: human fear. The film's message wasn't about alien invasion or radiation mutations. It was about control, power, and the fear of superior intelligence, the same unease that now surrounds AI, genetic cloning, and transhumanism. Decades later, its themes echo in everything from X-Men to Ex Machina and even debates in real-world bioethics. The movie's calm, sterile tone, its London streets filled with secret agents and frightened politicians, feels like a chilling mirror of our own world, where technology evolves faster than morality. Visually, the film's black-and-white style gave it a documentary realism, almost prophetic, like a newsreel from the future. And though it never became a blockbuster, Children of the Damned endures as one of Britain's most quietly visionary sci-fi films, one that dared to ask, if humanity created perfection, would we destroy it out of fear? So next time you hear about AI surpassing human intelligence or children born from lab-grown embryos, remember this forgotten British gem from 1964. It saw the future long before we did, and it warned us, in chilling silence. 11. The Day the Earth Caught Fire, 1961. What happens when science overheats the world? Long before climate change became a household term, the day the Earth caught fire warned humanity of a terrifying possibility: that our own technological arrogance could scorch the planet beyond repair. Released in 1961, during the height of Cold War nuclear fears, this forgotten British sci-fi masterpiece imagined a chilling scenario: simultaneous nuclear tests by the US and the Soviet Union knock the Earth off its axis, pushing it closer to the sun. The result? Global chaos, freak weather, droughts, melting ice, and the slow death of civilization. Shot in haunting black and white with a fiery orange tint for the apocalyptic finale, the film follows a cynical journalist, played by Edward Judd, and his colleagues as they race to report humanity's last days. But beneath the tension and chaos, the movie delivers an eerily prophetic message: our planet can't survive our carelessness. What makes this film so incredible is how accurately it predicted the conversations we're having today, about global warming, ecological collapse, and media spin in times of crisis. Decades before climate change hit the headlines, the day the Earth caught fire sounded the alarm, and most of the world simply ignored it. Director Val Guest crafted a story that feels less like fantasy and more like an environmental prophecy. Its ending remains hauntingly ambiguous. Humanity's fate rests on a single newspaper headline: "World Saved" or "World Doomed." 60 years later, that headline still feels relevant, because the question this 1961 classic asks hasn't changed. Are we still heating up our own extinction? The Day the Earth Caught Fire explained British sci-fi 1960s, climate change prediction movies, nuclear apocalypse films, retro sci-fi classics, forgotten British movies, Val Guest films, eco-apocalypse cinema, Globewise Entertainment. 12. The Mind of Mr. Soames, 1970. In 1970, British filmmakers released The Mind of Mr. Soames, a quiet, eerie science fiction drama that few people talk about today, yet it predicted something disturbingly close to our modern world of artificial intelligence, digital consciousness, and ethical science. The story follows John Soames, a man who has spent the first 30 years of his life in a coma. When scientists finally manage to revive him, they expect a medical miracle. Instead, they awaken a child trapped inside an adult's body, a man who must learn to walk, talk, and think in a world that has evolved without him. What began as a medical triumph quickly turns into a psychological nightmare. Doctors argue over how to train him, one treating Soames like a lab rat, the other insisting he's a human being with emotions. But the real twist? The film eerily mirrors today's debates over AI learning, human conditioning, and moral responsibility in scientific advancement. Long before modern brain-computer interfaces or artificial consciousness experiments, the mind of Mr. Soames dared to ask, what happens when science gives life, but forgets to give compassion? Even more chilling is how Soames' experience mirrors the way we teach intelligent machines today, feeding them data, expecting them to adapt, and punishing them when they don't behave as expected. The film's ending, haunting and tragic, becomes a metaphor for our own uneasy relationship with creation itself. Though it never became a box office hit, this forgotten British gem was decades ahead of its time, a 1970 vision of human experimentation and emotional programming that predicted the moral dilemmas of the 21st century. So, next time you hear debates about AI rights or synthetic empathy, remember, the mind of Mr. Soames saw it coming more than 50 years ago. These 12 forgotten British sci-fi films weren't just works of imagination, they were eerie blueprints of the world we live in today. From artificial intelligence to climate fears, these visionary stories proved that the future was already being written decades ago. Which one of these films surprised you the most with its bold prediction? Tell us in the comments below. We love hearing your thoughts and movie memories. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Globewise Entertainment for more deep dives into the most fascinating, forgotten, and fearless moments in cinematic history. Until next time, keep watching, keep wondering, and keep exploring the world of timeless films with Globewise Entertainment.